Hi,
Hey,
good
hello.
morning.
Sorry. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining. So, just a quick housekeeping before we get the session moving. There'll be a Q&A session after about 10-15 minutes. And I encourage everyone to raise their hands because we'll be giving preference to everyone who raises their hands rather than typing their window in the chat question. So, please raise your hands for the Q&A session. And I'll just get Ravi onto the call and he'll take it forward from here. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Jayant. So, good morning, everyone. It's great to have you on this webinar. This is the first of the webinars, and we are trying to get all the leaders in the startup ecosystem across India to come speak with you directly. Give you a chance to interact with them, get a sense of what they are thinking about the crisis that we are in. And Sateesh has been kind enough to be the first one to get this series started with us. So thank you very much, Satish. So Satish is
Welcome.
a
Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah.
yeah. So Satish is a friend of mine from several years. What he's been through the journey of being a product marketer, an engineer, an entrepreneur himself, and then a VC in several different avatars, including Draper Fisher, some years ago. So all of this, makes for someone who has been through several ups and downs. So this is not the first cycle of ups and downs that several of our leaders have seen, Satish has seen. So it really gives you a sense of the fact that this is not a unique situation, or it's not a situation that is so alarming. While it does have its set of challenges and issues, it also presents a whole lot of opportunities that will come out at the other end of the crisis. So we just wanted to give a sense of that understanding, a little bit of that perspective with all these discussions that we're going to have with all these leaders as we do the AMA. And that's the purpose of this. And we're hoping to do this, every Friday, so that you can come in and you can have these questions asked directly of these leaders. But at the same time, if you feel that you rather send in an email and connect with us that way, and that's also perfectly fine. So let me take a couple of minutes to introduce T-Hub for those who are not familiar with T-Hub, and give you what is that we do. And then I will also request Satish to start with his opening remarks. And then after that, we will open it up for questions, as the session's name is Ask Me Anything. So you can ask Satish anything. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them as well. So first of all, I feel T-Hub is probably a very, very unique organization that India has, and potentially the world has, because as much as people talk about startup ecosystem, startups, and so on and so forth, we have taken on a much larger mandate of actually putting together all the different stakeholders that are doing anything in the innovation space to be part of this ecosystem. As in, it is the government, it is the academia, these are the investors, the corporations, the industries, and at the same time, the startups. So we are taking a very large view of how to raise the water so that all the boats can rise, so that we can actually create some very, very interesting opportunities for all of us, and therefore make it a go-to place for anybody who's looking to innovate in their startups, in their industry, in their corporations, or in the governments. This is the place they land up in, because this is where you actually learn from the best, and the entire ecosystem is right here. And that's the endeavor that we have at T-Hub. And we have been making this happen in such a way. So a testament of this, for example, so when we ran into this crisis, the government of Telangana reached out to one of our sister organizations called RICH, which is the Research and Innovation Council of Hyderabad. We actually were asked to take in a lot of these very, very uh, inspiring startups to actually come in and offer their solutions, offer their products, offer their technologies for the problems that we were going to face with COVID. And we very quickly put together a council. Satish is part of that council to select those startups, uh, really take stock of what is the solution that they offer today, what is it that will take to keep them afloat and funded, and also take their solution to scale that any government would require you to do. So, it is one thing to say we created the innovation ecosystem. It's another to actually show you with what speed and expediency that we were able to, bring all the different constituents together to make this thing happen. So that's kind of the work that we do. People do look at our building in Hyderabad and this in the Triple IT campus as a very beautiful, very inspiring space. While we do a lot of work within the building, we also do a lot of work outside the building as well. And this is in terms of creating the ecosystem and working with all the different constituents and the stakeholders. So we do a lot of work, obviously, with startups. That is the largest constituency that we work with. And we work with very early stage startups, we work with some mid stage startups, and we also work with late stage startups. So it's like we do want to stay very relevant throughout the entire journey of the startups as they go along. And of course, our interest is that once they come to Hyderabad, they stay in Hyderabad. So that's kind of the kind of ecosystem support system that we're building for them so that they can continue their journey. So that's kind of the quick update for you on how T Hub has positioned itself in the ecosystem, and as part of the support that it wants to offer to this ecosystem and to the entire startup ecosystem in India. We are putting this series of webinars. This is one of the several that we have, and I would encourage you to be a participant in this because I feel that you will get a lot from listening to these webinars. You know that you're not alone. There are other people in the same situation, and there are ready-made solutions for 90% of the things that you're facing. So there's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel or struggle to things that you haven't you haven't found ready answers on Google or in other places. So with that, I will stop here, and I will request my friend Satish to start. As you can see, I'm such a big fan of his. I am trying to look like him as well.
Oh, no, thank you, Ravi. Good morning, all. Obviously, Ravi, T-Hub is doing great work and hope there's so much more to do. Um, I already put out a note on LinkedIn telling everyone that if I said I knew how to completely get through this crisis, it means almost it's a lie. Um, but the beauty of this is that you get to work with great entrepreneurs, others in the ecosystem, and figure out a solution and try and get to the other side of the nuclear winter. There have been a couple of more such situations in the past, but nothing like this. Dot-com crash, year 2000, 9/11, and of course, we all know the financial crisis. The dot-com crash and the 9/11, I was an entrepreneur in the Valley running my startup. So obviously, there were a lot of learnings. The financial crisis had just started my venture capital journey, was at DFJ, and now at Endiya Partners, while we all kind of weather this COVID crisis. If you really look at, and I'm pretty sure, there are lots of presentations floating around in terms of the sectors that are impacted, which of the companies will have headwinds versus which ones will have tailwinds. But just take a deep pause and think. If you really look at from consumers' perspective, right, there would be a lot of B2C businesses out there or consumer-facing businesses out there. Majority of the consumers would have income or eventually job loss, right? So that's very, very clear. From enterprises' perspective, tight cash flows, definitely lower revenues, and hence, obviously, lower profits or no profit. So they would not really have any money for discretionary spending. That's enterprise. If you really look at governments, most of the government's focus would be, how do you control the pandemic? Then rolling out stimulus packages for consumers, citizens as well as businesses. And for a long time, medium term, at least short to medium term, the focus would be entirely on, controlling the pandemic and ensuring that sense of calmness, right, within the society. So overall environment will be kind of filled with, fear, panic, and caution. And even for companies or businesses to resume their normal operations, right, to kind of get back to normalcy, it will take them a while. I'm talking about the core business. I'm not talking about the new initiatives that these businesses would launch. It would take them a while because it takes time for the supply chain to warm up. And we know that these are distributed supply chains across the globe. So it'll take time, for these to warm up. So think about, how it's impacted consumers, how it's impacted enterprises, what government's focus is going to be like, and for any business to start its normal operations, kind of what are all the dependencies. So I'm happy to answer, kind of share my experience as an entrepreneur as well as, venture capitalist. Quickly, with respect to guidance given to our portfolio, most important thing is have, business continuity plan, right? Ensure that your people are safe. That's very, very, very important. All your co-founders, executives, associates, even consultants, they should all be safe. Even if you resume the work, say after lockdown, ensure their safety. Follow obviously, guidelines from India, ICMR, as well as WHO, Ministry of Health. They have guidelines, so just follow them. And in terms of assess your business plan and conserve cash. Banks have already given moratoriums. We know that they're available for businesses, and I'm pretty sure they'll roll out more initiatives in the days to come. Rental negotiations, invoking clauses like force majeure, even payroll reduction in terms of deferment or voluntarily people coming forward to take lower salaries, rationalizing projects and roadmaps, all of that kind of very, very important. In terms of operational risk management, since you'll be working remotely from home for a while, having the daily activity planning is going to be very important. We all know, using collaboration platforms is a must. We have no choice. Backing up data on cloud, using VPNs from a security perspective. Banking operations, very important to have banking relationships with multiple banks. And then you need to have a core team, for war room or crisis management. Few people from your company being part of a core team to do the crisis management. I'll pause here. Happy to answer more questions.
So Jayant, we have questions waiting for us.
Hey, I think for everyone who joined a bit late, if you all can raise your hands so that you can ask questions, you'll come on the screen and be able to ask the question to the panelists directly. So please raise your hand. Yeah, we've got a few raised hands. I'm going to just patch them through. We have Monikesh first. He's a founder of Scrap Shoot. Hi, Monikesh. You can ask the question. Oh, he seems to have. Monikesh, if you can hear us, uh, he seems to have cancelled. I'll get the next person is Paras. Hey, Paras, if you can hear us, you can ask the question right now.
Sir, I'm being
Hey,
genuine to
Paras,
you. I'm
go ahead.
very scared right now. This is my first time. So,
No, no, please,
act-
please go ahead. We can hear you very
actually,
well.
actually, my startup is in travel agency in field. I'm working on this field approximately in 1 year. So my question is that due to this crisis, the corona crisis hit the travel agency or travel firm most. So how to overcome this situation? So as a channel partner perspective and as a customer relation perspective, how to overcome that situation from there? That's my question.
Ravi, you want
Hey,
me to?
Ravi and Satish, did you get the question?
Yeah, I understand that he is in the travel vertical. Unfortunately, I think that's the most affected vertical. You just have to wait and watch. I mean, you got to have very lean operations. Nothing anybody can do, whether it's travel, hospitality,
Yeah.
airline. I think they all face humongous headwinds. It'll take a while, so you just have to wait and watch. I don't think I have any special advice or suggestions.
So
Hello.
yesterday I was on this call, Paras, where we were trying to understand from a government's perspective what is it that they can do.
Hello.
We had Deep Kalra and various other people also on the call who are bringing notice to the fact that these are the industries that are most affected. When we understand that very well, as
Hello.
Satish was mentioning earlier, the easiest thing for you to do is to disband the company very quickly without knowing exactly when things are going to shape up. So there are
So
lots
just
of
a second.
discussions that are
I
underway.
have so
Sorry.
I have not heard you properly. Sorry for disturbance. I have not heard you properly. So I'm not
I think
getting.
Yeah.
Paras,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I am hearing.
I think,
Yeah. Okay. It's Giant. Yeah.
yeah, Ravi, if you could just
Giant, you
talk.
can hear me okay?
Yes, yes, I can hear
Yeah,
you,
we can
Ravi.
hear you.
I think
Yeah.
Paras's connection is.
So my connection is well okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Paras,
So
we'll
anyway,
take
so
the question offline. I think Ravi will get the
Yeah,
next.
that's
No,
right. Yeah.
Paras, can you do me a favor? Just turn off your video. Maybe your bandwidth will be a little better, and then I can just give you my comments.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Paras, so I was just saying that I was in a meeting with the government yesterday, and Deep Kalra and others were also in the meeting. So
Okay.
obviously, I think there is big understanding, a good understanding amongst all the industry players that this is one of the most hard hit sectors. And in this situation, the natural tendency for us to do is to completely abandon ship, or reduce the number of people there very quickly, and especially those that are
Mm.
the junior most in your team probably will get hit the most. But I feel, as Satish was mentioning earlier, that there is an end to the tunnel. It's not like this is indefinite or
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not going to happen. So the judicious thing for you to see is that how is the travel industry going to come back, and how in what shape is it going to come back in, and how is it that you can maintain your value that you have created in this industry, uh, of course at as minimal a cost as you can. And there are certain schemes that are coming out from the government as well, and the banks and so on, to help you in some fashion. But at the end of the day, 90% of the heavy lifting comes
Okay,
from
sir.
you and your co-founders on figuring out how best to ride this thing out. It may take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and as long as you know how you're going to conserve cash and be around to take advantage of the opening that will be given to you,
Yeah.
is I think incumbent on that. One of the things that I want to leave you with, Paras, is as much as you think it is about reacting to the crisis, it's also trying to take advantage of the crisis to really reinvent yourself in a way that you come out much stronger than the way you entered this crisis.
Yeah, I think Paras has left us. His connection seems to be a little this thing. But thanks, Paras, and everyone else who's going to come online. In case your connection is little off, please turn off your video. Now we have the founder of Naya Gadi. Uh, if you can ask your question now. Uh, Now we have the next question. Hi, Rama, if you could ask your question.
Hi. I am basically into natural and organic products, and I feel this is quite an advantageous time for me to, put forth a lot of fitness and health aspects into the market and stuff. Yet, given the situation, I feel a little handicapped because I'm not able to advertise in the physically, in terms of, in the localities. We are so interdependent, and my the basically the distribution system is getting affected here. So how do I work around that? Because social media is the only thing that I have where I can talk about my products.
No, I think from a product or a solution perspective, I think a lot of people will prefer going forward, right? Natural foods and organic foods. We see that movement already in the community. You should leverage digital marketing as much as you can. Even if the situation is normal, spending on offline marketing is going to be very expensive for you, and it's for small companies without large amount of capital. It's a very expensive proposition. And you're right. I think the supply chain is a big constraint. I think you may want to. There are companies like, while the big baskets of the world or the grocers of the world, the grocery delivery, even Amazon is still trying to get its act together within India in terms of grocery, Amazon Fresh. So I think if you can connect with some of these players who already have the supply chain figured out, that's a good way of doing it. Also, smaller fleet operators, like I know in Bangalore for sure, folks like Let's Transport or some other fleet operators are offering this help. Um, Even I know Ninja Cart is also trying to now. Previously, they were more B2B, but then they're going after the gated communities. So use digital marketing, use folks who have the supply chain figured out. I think for now, that would be my advice.
Yes, sir. I have another question also. Being a small enterprise, we were just born in October last, and we have come up with this natural honey and some cosmetics and luxury products like essential oils and handmade soaps and all the organic stuff. So, marketing these in these times, I mean, especially the cosmetics and luxury stuff, is something. Does it have any ethical? I mean, given these times where people are looking at their lives, I was having a question on that. Whether I can just go ahead and advertise
No,
about that.
yeah, I think you just started, right? I think you've just started your journey. I think for all the entrepreneurs out there, I just want to remind that, you are running a sprint as well as a marathon. Please don't think that any startup journey is a sprint. You're lucky, if you ran fast and you won the race and then you said, I'm done with it. You have to run very fast every day, and then next morning you have to wake up and you have to run again, and you have to remember that it's a marathon. So considering the fact that you're going to be in the game for a long time, you're playing a fairly long game. I think get your strategy, get your product mix right, understand your customer profile, maybe do the surveys now, and then get all of your strategy, and then go and splurge a little bit more on marketing maybe in a few weeks from now. Right now, it's just about what would people pay attention to, right? That is what is going to define your ROI. So, if I were you, I would go slow on that.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Are there any other sites that you would suggest us basically to advertise, or any bloggers who would push us fast?
Let Jayant take this input, and then T Hub team, and if required, will collaborate and answer these questions.
Sure.
Is that okay, Ravi?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So that way more people get to ask.
Sure.
Great, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Rama, for your question. We'll move on
Thanks,
to the next
Rama.
question.
Good luck.
We have Navneet.
Hi.
Hi, Navneet. You can ask your question.
Thank you, Jayant. Hi, Ravi and Sateesh. Thank you for answering our questions. So I work with a firm here in Bangalore, which is right now building a digital product in the education space. So for us, more than the business being affected, it is more in the lines of how can we improve productivity in situations like these? How much ever do we use G Suite and other productivity tools as an option? It is not about the tools being available or not being available. It is a whole mindset of getting work done in these kind of situations because things get a little relaxed. So any tips that you can help us with will actually probably get to building our products a little more faster and abide by our internal timelines. So
go ahead,
Satish. Yeah, so it was very interesting time for us, Navneet, at T Hub. We consider ourselves as a startup as well, because we are continually evolving to serve our customer base, which is very varied, as I mentioned to you. So we kind of had some inkling of the fact that things will start becoming very, very difficult for us. So a lot of the discussions that is happening in the media is usually about the tools, but I think that's step number 3. Step number 1 for us was to actually take stock of the business and very clearly define what are the different objectives that we wanted to accomplish within the next 1 to 2 months. Of course, we also were doing business planning for the next fiscal year at that time. So it was very timely for us to say, okay, that is for 12 months. How about for the next 2 months? Just primarily because it would mean that we could organize ourselves in a much better way. So all the way from what are the KPIs, what are the projects that will actually help us get to those KPIs, to who are the different people within the team that will actually work on those projects and therefore contribute to the KPIs. So it was a little bit of a painful exercise, but it was an important exercise that we went through and made that happen. So within about a day or so of the Janta curfew, we were able to start getting this disseminated to everybody. So that was step 1 for us, just to kind of create that framework of what is it that the business should do. So if it's an engineer, what are the different product features that they should be rolling out, what kind of testing should they complete, or what product should they roll out. so what development they need to do, bug fixes they need to do, and all that. To engineers, sorry, to marketers or market folks, what kind of campaign should they run, and what are the kind of numbers should they be able to get through those campaigns, and so on and so forth. Which lead uh, generation, or or just getting the number of people to react to what you're doing.
Correct.
The second step for us was to actually monitor this on a regular basis. So we had to get people into the cadence of communicating, over communicating to an extent, because we were not there, just walking by each other's desk and saying, "Hey, how are things going? Did you get that phone call? I sent you that email. Do you understand what I'm trying to get to? Will you be able to get it done by tomorrow?" Those kind of very casual catch-ups and conversations were not happening. So we actually had to communicate a lot more than less at this point in time. And the propensity to do less is always there, because we're all here, and you may be asked upon by your family to go do something else as well. So there's a lot of distractions.
Correct.
So how do you really make this thing work? So we said, well, we can't tell you what not to do at home, right? But
Yeah.
we can tell you what we want to get done in terms of the work, effort. So we have kind of a daily cadence at, like, every night by 9 o'clock. We want people to fill out a very simple form as to what are the different KPIs that they took to handle today, and within that, the gamut of that, what are the different things they did, and they gave us all that details. So that gets put together the next morning, and then there is a report that goes out to all the managers so that they know what's going on, and so on and so forth. So we're not trying to say, guys, we are micromanaging you. We are just saying, guy, be conscious of what is required. When you do this is something that we can't tell you, because now what's also happening is that people are beginning to find their biorhythms. So some people find that they're actually very, very effective in the mornings. They wake up in the morning, they finish a whole bunch of things, and then they'll probably go wash clothes or something for the house, right? So so we are saying, great, if that's what it is, or you want to do late in the night, do it, but as long as the work gets done, right? So that was the second thing of being communicative, be conscious of the work that you're doing towards what, it has to be productive work as well. And the third one, of course, is to use tools. So all the way from just having conversations like this to actually having Zoho, or Trello, or various other task managers or project management suites, is what now we are deploying, so that people can just see where they are in terms of progress, in terms of productivity, in terms of specific issues, and so on and so forth. I think it's working fairly well. I mean, it's not exactly what we had envisioned, but we are also getting used to this whole rhythm of doing these things in this way, because we had gotten quite used to doing a lot of informal discussions in the past. Now, we don't have the luxury of that. So yeah, we are utilizing all these things. So all the way from good planning to good communication and good documentation to using tools effectively. All these three things are helping us do a lot of good work. And some of our youngsters are also getting a little bit entrepreneurial, and they're saying, can I actually come up with a solution for something? And so they're putting in extra effort for a project, a pet project of their own, like an online offering of one of our uh, offline products. So they're trying, I'll take this project on, even though it's not part of the KPI. So it's
Nice.
giving them the ability to create more.
Okay, perfect. So I think I have a couple of good points to take away from here. Thank you so much for.
Thanks,
Great.
Navneet, for your question. Also, I'll just remind everybody that try and restrict your question to only one, so that everyone else gets a chance as well to question. Now we have Shiva Prasad, founder of Indriyan Data Analytics, joining us. Shiva, if you can. Looks like he's not able to join. I'm going to move on. We have Srikant. We have Srikant founder of eImpact.
Thank you, Jed. Morning, Ravi and Satish. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and, more importantly, for taking the time to indulge us. My question is regarding B2B SaaS products. Earlier in this conversation, Satish had mentioned that companies are going to be cash starved and their priorities are going to be core to their existence. In such a scenario, do you think we should change our approach to POCs in terms of whether we should be stuck up on our principles of giving POCs for a cost or versus giving it for free?
Yeah, no, I think cloud and SaaS products, I think they're more tailwinds, in terms of these sectors would benefit. But important thing is, I don't know in which vertical is your product and if you're targeting India market or regional or global markets. Can you tell me a little bit more about?
So mine is in HR, more
Okay.
of OD, more in OD space.
Yeah, what aspect of HR?
Talent discovery and talent management.
Yeah, so I think, especially when people are going to work from home, I mean, I have an investment in a company called Darwinbox. So Darwinbox is HCM platform for cloud. Learning and development to engagement to compliance, leave attendance, payroll compliance to recruitment and induction, all of that are very essential components. And one of the key discussions that's happening is that this particular event is going to change the way we're going to work in future. Even after we diffuse and get through this crisis, it's going to redefine, just the way 9/11 kind of redefined the security systems around the world, especially in the airports. So similar way, I think the workforce management and how workforce would contribute even within a particular location or across states within a country or across countries is going to change. So certainly offer POCs, get your customers to engage with you, even if they don't pay, and if they see value, in the next 30, 60, 90 days, they'll start talking to you about budgeting for a product like yours. At this point of time, if you're a small team and if your burn is not a whole lot, and the product is ready, I would strongly encourage that you engage with as many customers as possible. That way, for many product teams out there, what's the best thing you can do? In today's time and age, go really make your product very robust. Go work on all those bugs. Go work on all the new features that you are planning. Put all your energy into making your product world-class, scalable, secure. That's what is very, very important. And once the situation is normal, you can run twice as fast. That'll be my input, Shrikant.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Shrikant, I'll just add something to what Satish said. So, if you think that your customers are understanding what their requirements are and how strong that requirement is, where they are willing to pay for the POC or, just, engage with you just to understand the capabilities of your product, I don't think they themselves are very clear. So, as much as it is important on the engineering side to make your product robust, it's also I think an opportunity for you to build these relationships, these conduits for conversations back and forth. So if it is possible for you to have as many POCs as you can, these are building those relationships, these are building those conversations for you, so that once they are clear about their requirements, they do think about you, they do think about a certain version, maybe not exactly what you have demonstrated to them, but some variation of that will actually solve their problems going forward. So if you have the cash flow and you have the wherewithal, I think you should do as many of these as possible, because people are willing to converse, but they're not willing to make decisions at this point in time.
Thank you so
Also
much,
for all
Ravi.
the startups, sure, Srikant, for all the startups out there who have a product or a solution ready and have customers, focus right now a lot more, like what Ravi said, on customer loyalty. Keep your customers really happy, existing customers, find out what else they want. Going for new customers, trying to acquire new customers, at least in the next 30 to 60 days, I would, if I were running the company, I would slow that down a little bit. If I have a critical mass of existing customers, I would focus a lot more on them and keep those relationships really tight.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Srikanth, for your question. We'll move on to the next one. We have Surya from Syrup Technologies.
Hello. Hi, Sateesh. Thank you for spending this time with us. We are an automated driving technology startup. Like we are based in both US and in India. Though we believe transportation is still going to be needed, like in some way, shape, or form, like even after this crisis. But my question is really like, how is the investment activity going on? Like, you as personally as an investor, are you seeing any? Are you still seeing any deals, or are you making any decisions in investing, or any specific kind of technologies you're looking for currently, for yourself as well as in general opinion about the industry that's going through the crisis right now?
I think for all the investors, and Ravi can chime in after I'm done, for all the investors right now, the highest priority is managing their existing portfolio, right? Look at which ones are cyclically affected, which ones have structural issues, how much of a runway each of these companies have, and then diffusing the crisis, almost kind of becoming, part of the management team. Don't go run these companies for them, but be available for these founding teams so that you can help them navigate, these rough waters. That's the first priority. The second thing is communicating with our investors. Very, very important. All of them from around the world want to understand what our guidance to our portfolio is and how we are going to get to the other side of this nuclear winter. Third, definitely look at interesting companies. I don't think, while there are some announcements that are coming out about new rounds of financing, these were all the decisions made 30 days ago or 6 weeks ago, and they're announcing them now. Right now, I doubt if there are lots of new investment decisions that are being made. It'll take another 4 to 6 weeks. We continue to talk to select few. For example, in our hot pipeline, maybe there are 3, 4 that we're engaging with, doing diligence. Automated, autonomous vehicles, forget the driving assistance, but autonomous vehicles, I think, is a sector that will benefit because of this crisis. I think post this crisis, especially in controlled environments, in warehousing environments and large communities, given that obviously it's going to be some time in these situations, it's very difficult to get people to work. Autonomous vehicles will kind of get momentum. I have a couple of investments in this space. There's a company called Alpha ICs, which is doing the microprocessors, edge microprocessors. Another company called Steradian Semiconductors that is doing imaging radars for these autonomous vehicles to track and classify the objects very accurately in their surroundings. I strongly believe that that's a sector, not immediately, just like if you really look at the tailwinds are for cloud businesses, online education, healthcare, telemedicine, online, not discretionary commerce, but essential commerce. I think they all have positive momentum right now. But right after that, I think sustainability, autonomous vehicles, all of this will have positive momentum.
Sure. By the way, we are actually doing the core technology for a high reliability lane keeping and platooning, and we are seeing a lot of traction with the airports, airport people movers. So of course, it's kind of related with what you kind of mentioned, like, so that's why I wanted to definitely mention what we are trying to do as well. Like.
Certainly, Surya. Ravi, I don't know if you have anything else to add. Yeah.
No, nothing much. I think you covered all the points.
So thank you for your time then. Thanks.
Good luck.
Thanks,
Very
Surya.
exciting times ahead for you, Surya. That's all I
All
can
right.
say.
Thank you. Good.
You're in the right place.
So we actually, Surya, if you could just switch off your connection with us. We
Video.
now have Shiva Prasad. Actually, his connection was a little bad, so he's asked this question on chat. His question is: most of his sales involve physical meetings, convincing real estate owners, facilities managers, and building owners. He's been almost a month without sales because of the lockdown. Uh, uh, and he's not sure after this if he'll have the same luxury of flexible travel and meetings. Do you have any suggestions on handling these situations at the moment? Was I able to, were you able to get the question? Sorry.
The question was clear, Jayant. What product is he offering to those commercial real estate owners?
He
So
has
can you
not.
speak? You can only type.
I think since it's like that, we'll just move on to the
Yeah,
next.
take it offline. Yeah.
Yeah. We have Sankeet. Hi, Sankeet.
So my question is, is it ethical for business companies to invest in fear mongering situations that are happening right now? Because companies like few people are investing in surgical masks and all of this stuff, and they are selling it for more than triple and quadruple the price. So is there any way we can counteract that situation?
I think government will take care of it. I think most of these are brought under Essential, Services Act. So I think it's illegal to kind of, jack up prices for any of these like sanitizers or masks or
Yes.
right. So I think it'd be more government. I'll take care if you know of any such situations. I think the best way to get government's attention is to tweet to the right people. That's all I can say. Ravi might have more insight.
No, I think this is falls under the same gamut of saying, sending false information or information that only creates panic. So there's a lot of work that the government is doing to give you some authentic information that comes directly from them. There is also, of course, a chance that some people are taking advantage of this to benefit them, commercially. That also, I'm sure, will be frowned upon. And I know that the state of Telangana has been very proactive in being in the middle of all these conversations, so that none of these things really take shape in a big way. I'm sure the other states are also looking to curb these kinds of activities.
Yes.
So
Thank you, sir.
Satish's idea of tweeting and getting the widest awareness and visibility to that is always a very effective way of doing it.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sankeet, for your question. Now we have Harsha from Starfish Venture Partners.
Hi guys. Hi, Sateesh Andra. Thank you for your time. So Starfish is basically a startup studio. We incubate companies at an idea and early stage. And since what I just heard from what you told Surya, that investors and VCs are kind of taking a step back, and it probably with the economy taking such a big hit, and VCs, I guess, re-strategizing on how and when they're going to be investing in new companies. How do you think we should re-strategize what companies we would incubate and also self-sustain ourselves? And when do you think VCs are going to bounce back and start investing again?
I'll answer and then have Ravi kind of chime in, right? Whether during this time or any time, we always talk about this. I'm sure there were many panels Ravi and I were part of, and all of you folks have attended conferences or you've spoken at conferences. We ask entrepreneurs, is it a vitamin or a painkiller, right? when they present their idea. The second question is how large is your market opportunity, and is it, um, does it require lots of cash, or is it you're going to use optimal cash and then get to escape velocity? So to me, I think it's very important for even the entrepreneurs who are in the audience, while you realize that you're running a sprint as well as a marathon, you also need to be very honest. If you are pursuing ideas that are vitamins, if you are pursuing ideas that warrant the discretionary spend of either a consumer or enterprise or government, those verticals, those products, solutions, services are going to find it very, very, very tough to sustain and survive. During good times, it's easier. I mean, you must have all read about Nika just announced a big round of funding, and they're almost a unicorn. Nika is this fragrance, online fragrance and cosmetics brand or company. And then they talked about the difficulties in their business. They talked about how their business is being hit in lieu of what's happening out there. So, uh, my humble suggestion to all entrepreneurs: be very honest, analyze your business, and see if it's a must-have or nice to have. And if you don't get a good answer, go to your advisors or go to your angel investors and talk to them. Focus on companies or ideas that are must-have. If it's really nice to have, I think that'll be medium term, not short term. Investors will take a quarter or two to redevise or revise their strategies and ramp up investments. This whole thing is going to last at least uh, a year or two. I'm not talking about the lockdown situation and shutdowns. I'm talking about the effects of this and how different components of the supply chain, or because nations themselves are going to focus on their business continuity protocols. We have seen companies working on BCPs, but nations have to work on BCPs now. And they will have to organize their supply chains and have to have local initiatives so that next time they're not dependent on other nations during the times of crisis. So, my earnest appeal to all the incubators or accelerators or even entrepreneurs is do a thorough due diligence, figure out is it a must have or nice to have, and then plan your strategies accordingly. And investors will take a quarter or two prior to opening up their checkbooks. Ravi?
So I'll just add to that. So I think Satish covered a lot of these points. So Harsha, for me, as much as you feel there is a reason why these VCs or investors are stepping back, and why? Because they're unclear as to whether they're making the right decision. Is this the right market? Is this the right technology solution for the market or whatever, right? I think it's as important or even more important for the startups to also take a step back, because if if they are actually taking the money in and creating an acceleration of that process uh, by bringing in the money, they are going in a direction that may eventually end up being absolutely irrelevant. A market that is going to not going to pan out for them, because that's the way it is going to be. So I think as much as investors are investors, startup entrepreneurs are the biggest investors in the startups. So they also want to make sure that really you're not going after something or raising money or wanting money where you don't know exactly if that's the direction that you want to go in the first place. So one obviously practical aspect, if you're already along the way, you already have startups, already have customers, you have revenue. The question is, what can you do as a stopgap arrangement uh, to continue the business, in some small way or in some sustainable way for a long period of time, for 6 months. That's obviously a consideration. But at the same time, it is also a possibility that there are certain schemes coming out from the banks and so on and so forth, where there may be some working capital help that you can get and so on. to actually see how you can, prolong your wait to make sure that you are actually coming back into the market at the right time. So going
Yeah,
back to
and
your
now more than sorry, no, now more than ever, I think the entrepreneurs of the startups are even more kind of shaken up because they don't know if their future for the next even like a year or two, like Satish mentioned, is going to even help in building their company as planned. So the entire roadmap is changing for it.
That's the word. You said as planned. So maybe the plan has to change. If the plan
Yeah.
changes, it'll be fine. So I'll go back to a comment that Satish made. So, we have something in T Hub called corporate innovation. This is where we teach or actually mentor or whatever you want to call it, industry, that is looking to work with startups. So basically, we are doing all that activity so that the startups can get acquired by them. So we're trying to create that mindset within the industry. So earlier when we were trying to sell to them, it was actually a vitamin. Hey, if you actually open up your idea, and open up your minds to the fact that there is so much great technologies that you can actually get from startups. Say if they are, if you as a or corporation are sitting on a lot of data, here is an AI startup that you can actually collaborate with, and you can really get some great insights and or build some very great predictive models and so on, which was actually a more of a concept that we were throwing to them and saying this will stand you in great stead because your competition is already doing it, but they really didn't feel the pain.
Yeah.
Now we are actually selling to them saying, oh, it's no longer an option, it's no
You
longer
need
a
it.
vitamin, it's a painkiller, you really need to take it.
Yeah.
So I would say it's the plans are changing, but also it's also an opportunity for the startups to reinvent themselves and go really fast once the gates open once again. So there is
That's
no
true.
reason for you to think, that it's actually a bad thing. Yes, bad thing to the extent that you have some fixed costs and so on and so forth. But other than that, it's also an opportunity to really quickly reinvent yourself and get out of the gates really fast.
That's true. Awesome.
Thanks, Harsha,
Yeah.
for your question.
So again, for
I,
folks out there, Jayant, like Ravi mentioned, there are lots of initiatives behind the scenes that are taken up with the government. Hopefully, we'll see some results in terms of how do we continuously sustain the momentum in the startup ecosystem overall.
Yeah.
Ensure the runway, either through certain equity, grant, or debt made available. Time will tell what would be the package be like. Uh, my point was you have to have clarity whether it's a cyclical issue or a structural issue, right? If it's a cyclical issue, you have to have patience in terms of how do you redesign your strategy. If it's a structural issue, obviously you got to go and think and see what to do. If it's both cyclical and structural, I mean, you can make that decision very quickly in terms of,
Yeah.
you know,
Letting go.
like, yeah.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you both so much.
Thanks, Harsha. I think if I could request the speakers, in the interest of time, because it's already 12, if only one of you could answer each question,
Sure.
probably get through a bit faster. And
I
the
don't
next
know,
question,
Jayant, if we have time to answer too many questions. So maybe
maybe
we'll take
because we have about 10 more, so probably one or two more at least.
yeah, at least two more. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so just before we finish, we'll take a couple more questions and then finish the session. Whoever hasn't got a chance to ask their question, please put it in the chat window. We'll try to get Ravi and Satish to answer them post the session offline and send you the answers, hopefully, if possible. Otherwise, someone from our team will answer them. So let's move to Uday now. Uday, can't seem to get him. We have Anand. Hey, Anand.
Hi, I'll switch off my video. I have a pretty, straightforward question, I would say. That is, with all the, news coming in, all of our customers are also pretty much trying to, kind of go lean and reduce costs on everything. So the thing is all about how do we actually draw a line on how much of discounts or how much of what should I say, kind of postponing of payments and everything can we actually be doing, while at the same time being very sensitive to the the situation of theirs and also ours, which is more like a catch-22 at this time. So where do we draw the line? What would you say to your own portfolio companies on where to draw the line?
Sateesh?
Yeah, I think it all depends on what are the contractual terms and first of all, profile of your own customer. How healthy are they financially? The second thing would be the contractual terms. I would not invoke or talk about the contractual terms. If you are very clear about the financial profile and well-being of your customer, I'd go back to them and tell them about my situation as a startup and what it takes for us to survive, and request them to support us by making payments on time. If it's sitting in, if you invoiced and sitting in a 30 or a 60-day bucket, I would not worry about it. But if it gets into 90 or 120 bucket of AR, I would request them. And then the last step is really talking about the contract, which is signed by both parties. To me, during these times, even going to third parties, receivables financing and all take a lot of time. It all comes back to what's your product or solution that you're offering, the profile of your customers, and their financial well-being, and are you talking to the decision maker or the sponsor and making that earnest appeal? I think these are the three things I would do if I were the entrepreneur, or this is how our portfolio companies do it.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Anand. Last question, Jayant. Jayant?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, got Surya now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, hi. Yeah.
Hi. So thanks for addressing great questions, and I think you've been through these cycles from your experience, and it's a great perspective for us. So my question is about investors, and we are actually in the process of raising seed funding. And my question is, given the circumstances right now, how do we continue to pursue the new investors? That's the first part. Second part is, how do we keep the conversation going with the existing investors in the existing in the pipeline right now?
You want to take that, Sateesh?
Yeah, I can take it, Ravi. Yeah, so Surya, I think you should ask your investors, especially the ones with whom you're further along, ask them an honest question. What time frame will you make decisions? Will you be investing in the next 1 quarter, right? What is the pending due diligence? So I think these are the questions you should ask. I have 4 or 5 companies in the pipeline right now, where we are engaging with them on a regular basis. I've told them that it is going to take us a quarter. One cannot mislead you. And also be aware that term sheet is non-binding. I mean, many times when people sign term sheets, they don't go back unless they see some skeletons in the closet. But otherwise, it's a non-binding thing. You having that honest conversation with the investors with whom you are further along, what else is pending from a due diligence point of view? Are you comfortable to invest in lieu of what has happened in the last 30 days? What time frames would you be writing a check? And if you get those answers, you'd be able to make better decisions for your own company.
Sure.
I believe most of them will give you straight answers. They're not going to spin the wheels.
Yep. Makes sense.
Thanks, Surya. Any closing words, Ravi, before we end, or?
Yeah. Sure. So, as I think both Satish and I have been saying, I think this is a good time for you to look at the startup that you guys are building. The very interesting thing about this time is, it's like a river that is running water at a very low level. So you're beginning to see all the rocks. You're beginning to see all the obstacles, and you're beginning to see this in plain sight rather than it being covered underneath, and somehow your boat hits this and gets damaged. So I think it's a time for you to take stock of the external environment, but also take stock of your internal strategy, your own and plans that you have, because you have the time, you have the ability to reflect on what's going on. And once you do that, I think there will be a lot of things that you probably had put away because you were running so fast and you were moving so fast that you were not really addressing head on. Maybe an opportunity for now, for you now to do that. And so I wouldn't get too concerned. All of us, including Satish, has gone through the worst of times. We thought, oh my God, will we ever get out of this thing? And here we are again, going back to the next startup, and then the next startup, and the next investment. So it'll all pass. I think it's for you to keep that faith in your abilities, and in your abilities of the team and the investors that you have brought in, will stand you in great stead. I think it's a great time to really rethink and reimagine the future. Satish, you want to add anything?
So I'd say stay safe, stay healthy. I know we're all locked down. Work out, do your yoga, meditation, whatever. It's very, very important. I think maybe just listen to this news or tune into this news maybe once a day about this COVID crisis. Otherwise, your friends or they will let you know what's happening out in the world. Don't try and be in a panicky mode. The most important thing is I remember it's all in the mind, right? I think the battles, the strategies are all devised in your mind, and first you have to conquer that in your mind before you go and implement out there. Good luck to everyone, and wishing you all the very best. Thanks for the opportunity, Ravi, Jayant, Mansi, and Tarun. I will reply to your question offline. Thank you.
Thanks, Satish. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Huge round of applause for the speakers. And everyone who couldn't ask their question, really sorry, but Mansi has put her email address in the chat. You can directly write to her, so it'll definitely be answered. Thanks, everyone, for coming again. Thank you, Ravi and Satish.
Thank you. Bye-bye.